just have one. 11-year-old Halima works in the Hanes underwear department at the Harvest Ridge factory in Bangladesh, where she cleans the underwear of any loose thread. She makes 6.5 cents an hour, 53 cents a day, $3.20 a week, and she knows the wages she makes are not fair. In her own words, she told the National Labor Committee that if she misses one day of work, she is yelled at and beaten. If she makes one mistake, she is yelled at and beaten. If she fails to meet her quota of 150 pieces per hour, she is yelled at and beaten. It happens every day. The National Labor Committee estimates that there are 200 children 11 years of age and younger that sew for Hanes, Walmart, JCPenney's, and Dillard's at the Harvest Ridge factory in Bangladesh. They work 80 to 110 hours a week, and they sleep on the factory floor. This is not an isolated case, as women and children all over the world are forced to make American goods that we use every day and take for granted. If you knew the clothes or shoes you wore were made by a child or forced labor, would you still wear them? Would you continue to buy them? Or would you consider purchasing products that did not support sweatshop labor? A sweatshop is defined by the U.S. Department of Labor as any factory that violates two labor laws. This pertains to wages, benefits, working hours, or child labor. Though I initially wanted to concentrate on child labor, it became very clear to me that international laws and standards should be my primary focus, as U.S. companies are just as guilty of human trafficking as they are child labor. Human trafficking is a term that's usually associated with selling a woman or a child for sex, but let's not make us think that being worked to death is any much of a prettier picture. Human trafficking is a term referred to as a worker that is lured or tricked for working with little to no money under terms that are highly exploitive. This is the case in Jordan. On April 14, 2010, the National Labor Committee reported 4 U.S. companies involved in these practices: Walmart, Nygaard, JCPenney's, and Dillard's. The factory in Jordan hired 1,200 guest workers through brokerage agencies in Bangkok, Sri Lanka, and Singapore, where they charged $1,700 for a work permit. It's a 3-year contract. Each woman is promised upward mobility. $1,700 is their lives. Many of their families take out loans to pay for these contracts in hopes to attain the American dream. Upon arrival, they are stripped of their passports and forced to work 16 hours a week, 7 days a week. 16-hour shifts, 7 days a week. They are at the mercy of their employers. They live in fear. They live in cramped and unfit dormitories, and they have to pay rent, which is taken out of their meager earnings. Every day, these women are beaten, harassed, attacked physically and sexually by their male employers. And in this case, there have been 2 reported deaths of overwork. And how can this be? The U.S. Constitution states that child labor is an illegal and inhumane practice, and any U.S. company that is guilty will be prosecuted. But because of outsourcing, U.S.-based companies have found a loophole, as the WTO prohibits member nations like the United States from discriminating against goods made by children, particularly in cases of countries that do not have existing or enforced labor laws, as means to protect the term free trade. In 2006 through 2009, there was an act in the House and Senate called the Decent Working Conditions and Fair Labor Act. If this could have combated the WTO's rules by amending the tariff of 1930, prohibiting imports, exports, and sale of goods made with sweatshop labor. And though 75% of Americans supported this, it was never even voted on. The blame has to be placed on the company. It can't always be placed on the countries, the government, or even the WTO, as it's the companies that hold all the cards and call the shots. You can see this when you look at China. When China wanted to strengthen their labor laws and unionize, it was the American companies that fought back the hardest, threatening to leave, to outsource again, for cheaper and cheaper labor, exploiting more and more people. It's greed, and it's inexcusable. The research I've done found reports on Fortune 500 companies such as Nike, Nestle, Apple, Microsoft, Walmart, Mattel, JCPenney's, Dillard's, and Speedo, just to name a few. And it can't be all about money, because just 10% of what they spend on advertising alone would help pull these people out of misery and into poverty. In 2008, Nike paid Tiger Woods $1 million to endorse their product. Mattel spends 18 times more on advertising than they do to employ their people at 19 cents an hour. According to Charles Kerrigan, the executive director of the National Labor Committee, a Mattel toy that costs the U.S. consumer $29.95 has a custom value of $9 total. This includes everything: labor, packaging, and shipping. It's a 233% markup. So not only are we paying too much, we are paying to exploit our global laborers, and we are paying to line the pockets of international and corporate criminals. It has to stop. It seems that nationally there's not a lot we can do but sit around and wait. In the meantime, we can contact our government officials and urge to pursue bills such as the Decent Working Conditions and Fair Labor Act. We could lobby if we had time. We could support and donate to organizations such as the National Labor Committee, or UNICEF, or the Human Rights Watch, just to name a few. But I believe that it's independently and individually where we can make the most significant changes. We can educate ourselves and others about the companies that do promote sweatshop labor and the companies that do not support sweatshop labor, such as Avon, Palmolive, Kodak, Oshkosh, and Eddie Bauer. We can buy fair trade, not free trade. We can buy union. We can buy used. But we do not need to buy from any company or their affiliates that support sweatshop production. Now that I've informed you of a little bit about human trafficking and child labor, I can hope that you're on the same page as me. How can we continue to support these companies knowing that their ethics and their values and their standards go against everything that makes our country great? The United States of America is known for setting the bar on labor laws, human rights, education, and most importantly, freedom. So we can't be blind anymore. I hope that the next time you shop, you'll think about what you've learned. I hope that you would avoid purchasing from brands that I've mentioned. I hope that you will avoid the Walmart parking lot altogether, as they've been mentioned the most. I hope that you will not value saving $1 or $2 over the lives of our global neighbors.